3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Racing World, brought to you by Perspective Group. It's your motorsport podcast show in conjunction with Race Control Magazine.
Well, welcome to another edition of Racing World. I'm just rapt about some of the information we've got on the show for you today. And I'm going to start off talking Kiwis. Yes, I know it's an international podcast show now, but we do have a Kiwi bias. And first up, great news yesterday. Received this from his father. Blair, Julian, crew chief for Scott Dixon for the last few years. Before that, head mechanic with the Ganassi team, has been paralleled with Dixon for many, many years now. Delighted to say that he's now stepping in to the role of Barry Wanzer at the Ganassi racing team, and he will be team manager for the team for the next season in IndyCar. This is just a major story. It really is. It's significant to what Blair is doing, the efforts that Blair has put in, just everything about him. So he'll now oversee the 4 cars for Ganassi and may appear actually on the timing stand for the Jimmy Johnson, Tony Kanaan entry as well. But for Blair, this is really a big step, and filling the shoes of Barry Wanzer is a big step as well. And we've just got to say that this is a Kiwi guy that came from a small town in New Zealand, and he's risen above. And congratulations, Blair. Your dad and your mum are extremely proud of you, and I'm sure your brother is, even though he's in a rival team. And we now have 2 Kiwis in IndyCar that are both team managers. That's Paul Ziggy Harkis at Andretti Autosport, and boy, they're big shoes to fill. And of course now Blair at the Ganassi racing team. So this is just great news. Very delighted for Blair, and for anyone watching the show, this is just proof of the fact that Kiwis can. Speaking of Kiwis can, well, we've alluded to it for weeks and weeks now. Hunter McElrea finally had his Indy Lights test, and yes, it was with Andretti Autosport. I've known this for some time, wasn't really at liberty to tell you because it's still commercially sensitive, and it may not go anywhere yet, but we're hopeful that it will. And a lot of work's been done by this behind the scenes from Andy, his dad, and the whole support team for Hunter and Hunter himself. And Hunter did himself very proud on the IMS road course over the weekend in the car, and topped the timesheets at one stage, and certainly was as competitive as the other 15 cars that were there within the test. And this is testament again to, first of all, the Road to IndyCar series. It's proven it works. Hunter started out in the scholarship shootout, went to USF 2000, went to Pro Indy, and now testing Indy Lights. And this is very significant for Hunter McElrea. It shows just what a long way he's come since his days in the New Zealand Elite Academy way back in Otago, and yet it's only just a few years ago. So Hunter did very well. Not sure what the next phase will happen after this, but congratulations, Hunter, on an excellent test, and significant that you did top those timesheets. You did a very good job. And this is one to watch, maybe in Indy Lights in 2022. And then speaking of the IMS road course, well, it was full on too for several drivers in the full Indy cars. Another chance to have probably the last test of the season. Conditions now in Indianapolis getting quite cold. It's early November now, and this is the time where the season changes, and I can testify for the fact that it's going to get colder. But Kyle Kirkwood was out there amongst other people, and great run. Now Kirkwood became a bit of a victim of the whole Andretti Alpha scenario, and has now been released by Andretti. He was looking good to take the Herder seat if Herder had gone to Alpha, and me and Bob will talk more about that shortly. But the bottom line fact is Kirkwood is now a free agent, so that gives him somewhere to take the money that he won from winning the Indy Lights Championship this year, about $1.3 million as part of the Road to Indy series. And he's a worthy bet, and he's certainly a worthy driver. But we were able to catch up with a few of the drivers that were at that test after their commitments that day. And once again, thanks to our friends at IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for enabling this to happen. And it was great to see these guys out on track. So here's a few words from those guys that were at the test.
Oh, it was fantastic. It's the first time that I've been able to drive an IndyCar around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, so it's a historical moment. Yeah, it wasn't the exact same track that we'll be racing on, but it was actually cool to drive the old inner loop. Yeah, exactly. That I guess probably the last time that anything's raced that was Formula One, maybe. So that was cool to drive. I would have liked to drive the actual track, but no, it was a great day overall. Andretti's got an awesome car here. This is a local track for most of the teams here, and beautiful weather. Thankfully, this late in the year, the weather held off. Is nice and cool, which actually makes us a bit quicker, create a little bit more downforce, a little bit more horsepower, and no, overall a great day. I mean, we got to drive there for 3 hours. It kept me in it pretty much the entire time, and I think we ended up quickest overall. But with that aside, it was still just an amazing day driving an IndyCar.
It was a very cool experience. Do know this is my second time in the IndyCar, and anytime I get into it, I was looking up just a couple days, just getting back into it, and because the car is beautiful. I mean, the amount of downforce, the braking, the horsepower, it's just all around a beautiful car. And we started off the day with some seat issues, some different things that were different from each driver that I had to get used to from the Penske side. But after that, they were very friendly with me. Anything I needed, they were right there, and I kind of felt spoiled for a day.
Absolutely incredible, Been watching these cars for so many years and dreaming of actually having a go at it, and this was the place, and not too bad a place to do it as well, at Indianapolis. So yeah, really enjoyed my experience. So massive thank you to IndyCar and enjoyed it as well for the whole experience.
Well, there's some great things ahead there in IndyCar, and I'm sure that we're going to see these names either in the game next year or certainly in the foreseeable future. And this is, again, I keep saying it, but it's a testament to how the Road to Indy scholarship program works. It's proven. And another driver that was there over the weekend was New Zealand Billy Frazer. He was stepping up from the USF 2000 car that he's driven this year for Exclusive Motorsport to put himself in an Indy Pro car. And again, he did very well. So it looks like Billy's definitely going to be bound for Indy Pro next year, and he's always said to me, and his father's always said to me, US was the place to go. They felt that that's where they wanted to be, and they're well and truly there now. He's stuck there over the winter months now because of the MIQ situation to get back home to New Zealand for Christmas. But Billy's doing the hard yards, following in the footsteps of maybe people like Hunter McElrea that have kind of almost paved the benchmark for these guys. So again, well done to Billy Frazer. But next up, of course, Speedway. Well, will that happen in New Zealand or won't? There's only one way to find out, and I caught up with the general manager of Western Springs Speedway, John McCallum.
We see Pickens gets up the inside of Guildford.
What'll happen is they'll move, just cushion up. They'll lean against it and push it.
See the right rear just hold under on the 7 of Buckley's car.
Zero tyre wear.
And that's the number 2 NC. He must have been asleep when the lights went out. And Escovitz holds on to it. Williams comes straight back at him.
Big rollover from Max Guildford.
And Michael Pickens does the job again.
Travis Buckley just gets a big old bike down there in front of the Lucas Oil VIP corporate suite. And we've got one over. That's Brett Morris.
The most awaited Speedway season ever. It's coming to Lucas Oil Western Springs Speedway.
Well, joining me now on Racing World, John McCallum, the general manager of Western Springs Speedway here in Auckland, New Zealand. And it's the most iconic speedway in the country, been around since 1929. And John, first of all, it's a beautiful day here at the Springs today, isn't it?
It's a beautiful day in an empty stadium, yeah.
For viewers of Racing World, that not only that we have here in New Zealand, but we have a lot of international viewers, particularly in the US, that watch the show and have quite a fan base towards speedway racing as well. How hard is it right now with COVID to be a promoter?
It is hard to do anything at the moment. Just living in Auckland's tough at the moment, so it's a lot of business struggling. But to be a promoter, to try and plan an event when the rules keep changing and you get your advertising set and you get the competitors G'd up, and then all of a sudden there's another level and we're moving again, it's pretty difficult to plan how you're going to make this thing work.
I guess, everyone is fought with these challenges, but you get it from all directions, don't you? Because you get it from the fan base, you get it from the competitors, you get it from everyone.
Yeah, and people are passionate about it. They just want to get on with the racing. That's what they're interested in. We've had enough of hearing all the bad news. We've got to get on with something positive.
Western Springs is well known, particularly once again to people who are watching it in the States, the number of American drivers that have been down here over the years. But our New Zealand competitor base, when you look at the likes of a Michael Pickens or a Hayden Williams or Brock Maskovich in the midget categories, they're worthy of international standard, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that separates some of those guys is just time. They get up to America and they start getting on the pace when they're up there a little while. I think it's just the amount of racing the Americans do perhaps separate them. But when the Americans come down here, the local boys can compete absolutely on the same footage. It's just probably seat time is the only thing that costs them. They've certainly got the skills and they've got the equipment. They just need more time in the car.
So as we're saying to people, it's not a case of if, but it's when we get racing here at Western Springs. We're looking at a very exciting season ahead, aren't we?
Well, yeah, when we do get this thing kicked off, it's going to be fantastic. I think numbers, we've never had so many sprint cars registered. I think we've got over 30 cars registered to Auckland alone without the visitors. We've got 2 great series with the Repco Sprint Car Series and the Midas Midget Series. And then you add in the TQs, we've got a huge number of quarter midgets, those kids coming through, the F2 midgets. So yeah, all the ingredients are there for a great show. We're just going to get the people on the gate. I know a good friend of the podcast, he's been on it many times before and will be the commentator this season at Western Springs, Alistair Wooten. He started out his racing career in what is now known as a Kiwi kid quarter midget. It's just a great proving ground. That's in many ways quite unique to Western Springs as well, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, they certainly make their home here. At Rosebank Road, the little dirt track, motorcycle track in Auckland, they learn some probably finer skills around there, driving in close quarters. But when you say it's Shane Van Gisberg and Jamie McDonald, Michael Pickens, Brad Mosen, that's where they all came from. It's pretty impressive list of names, isn't it? Yeah, that's a great breeding ground for them. Yeah. So again, just to fill people in, so that we just like the show, we have plenty of armchair critics in all our business world that we all live in. But to give people an idea, if you were suddenly told today you can get this place ready to go, how long does it take John McCallum and his team to get this place ready to go racing? Without limits, with being able to get people over the border and be able to get equipment and contractors, we could probably get up and going in about 2 weeks. Okay. But until now, we haven't been able to get in the stadium. It's a council venue. It's had some real tight limits on even getting in here. So getting started to get the workers in to put the lights, the speakers, the control lights, there's a section of fencing that comes down for the rugby season, the timing systems back in. There's a fair bit of infrastructure to go in there. And they're all things, obviously, that you're just really waiting to push that go button on, really. Yeah, that's right. Just being able to get access and get the people here. Our track preparation guy comes from out of Auckland. As you know, we're a sister track with Palmerston North Speedway. A lot of our crew and maintenance people, Puck and his team, all come up from Palmerston to do the job here. So getting them into Auckland, it's all those logistical things that are just going to make it a little bit tougher this year. Because that is an important thing that you just said, that this falls under Bruce Robinson's care as part of the speedways that he manages, and that's a significant factor as well, isn't it, for New Zealand speedway fans? Yeah, it is. I mean, Bruce has sort of got 4 tracks under his control with Miani Speedway in Hawke's Bay. Palmerston North has become famous for its teams racing, and Waikaraka Park in Auckland and here in Auckland. So at the moment, Bruce is stuck between 2 worlds. He's got 2 tracks that might be able to operate soon and 2 tracks that are stuck in Auckland. So he's got a bit of both going on. And again, I can't stress it. I remember coming here when I was a young kid, and I used to come up here from Wellington with my dad when he was alive, and we'd spend the summer months here. The quality of racing that people can see here at Western Springs is as good as you're going to get pretty much anywhere in terms of open wheel dirt car racing, isn't it? Yeah, we say we are the best quarter mile speedway in the world. I've been all over the world, seen a lot of speedway, and I haven't seen anything much better than this. Certainly for consistency, to put on that show week in, week out, with the level of competition. The fan base we have is amazing. Fans have been coming here, like you say, you came here with your dad, yeah. I came here with mine, and that's what a whole bunch of our fan base is. They're on 2nd, 3rd, 4th generation fans. I just can't get over that. And then you look at the facilities that we've got here, looking out there right now, we've got this amazing theatre, if you like, with the concrete terrace area to sit on. We're sitting in the corporate area. There's a lot of choices for the fan as well, depending on what they want to do, if they want to entertain clients, or it's a true night out, isn't it? Absolutely. If you want, you like to say, we're up in the Legends Lounge, you can come up here and get a comfortable seat and have your own private bar and screens, and you can sit up on the hill with your family if you want to. There's all sorts of price points and food concessions for everybody. And the most amazing thing about Western Springs is we're one junction from the middle of the city. And where else in the world do you have a stadium like this, one junction out of the city? Well, it's been headline news for many a year now about Save Western Springs, and Western Springs is here. All we need now is for the gates to be open in many ways. That's right. The fans have done their job to keep it here. And now we've just got to start entertaining them again. And just finally, before we let you go, looking at this season and the quality of racing that we had last year, particularly in the midget car division, and Hayden Williams taking his first New Zealand title, there's a lot of people that are probably keen to have a go at number 1 as well, but it really once again emphasises how good these drivers are at this track. Absolutely. I mean, that midget division with Hayden, like you say, it's taken him a while to get there, but now he's got that monkey off his back. It'll be hard to shake that number 1 off him. Michael Pickens so dominant, he's looking for number 10. Brad Mosen, teamed up with the Greenway team just got a new lease of life in that new car last year. So there's young drivers coming through the various teams. Jeff Harper's got a huge team with HLR, so the depth is really there.
And then just capping it off, so for people who are interested in perhaps coming to Western Springs, obviously if you live in Auckland, you know about it. If you're outside of Auckland, once that border's taken care of, you'll be able to come on over. What's the best way currently for people to find out when Western Springs is going to kick off?
Through our website, through our Facebook, so Western Springs Speedway Facebook, our website. If you're looking for tickets, Event Finder, our ticket agent. The season tickets are up for sale now. People say, gee, I'm going to buy a season ticket whenever we're having a season, but we will have, and the season ticket will allow you to use all those tickets up over the course of the year, so you can use as many as you like per night. The terms around them are all pretty flexible. So if you need to lock your tickets in for the year, or you want to come to all the shows, you can buy them now at Event Finder.
Well, there you go. That's the best way to check it out. Then look at the Western Springs Facebook page, the Western Springs Speedway website, which you can get online, obviously, for all the latest information. And, of course, here on Racing World, we'll have plenty of news from Western Springs Speedway. John, we're really looking forward to the season and all the very best. And bring on, I don't know, orange level light or level 2 or God knows what the hell it is.
Yeah, traffic light, change light, do what you like. But next time we speak, let's hope there's some noise and some dust behind us.
Too right. Well, moving from Western Springs, it's back to us in isolation again. Joining me, Bob McMurray. We will get together one day soon, I'm sure.
Well, yes, splendid isolation here. I'll be frightened to see anybody else come through the front door apart from my wife. And that's frightening enough. No, I didn't mean that. Yeah, it's dreadful, isn't it? Actually, I heard last night my sister in the UK has got COVID after all that, but she's double vaccinated and it's okay. So, yeah, it's all still there, and I know you've had issues with trying to get to Saudi to do the Formula One. You've been invited to be a producer or whatever it is at the Formula One Prix Saudi Arabia, which is a huge accolade, but well, you ain't going to do it. So what can I say? In fact, today I think I'd be at. I might even be at Hampton Downs today if it wasn't for COVID. So there you go, Saudi, Hampton Downs. What's best?
Yeah, well, it was. I thank you for that very, very much. It was a bit of a dream opportunity, but as at about 2 hours ago, actually, it was finally put to bed, and we won't be making, so to speak, the grid for Formula One in December in Saudi. I was actually looking forward to seeing Liam Lawson and Marcus Armstrong in F2, believe it or not. I thought, I'm that close, I can see that. But anyway, staying with our Formula One theme. The Andretti Autosport Alpha deal, obviously, at the end of the day, didn't happen. One of the things may have been, as we alluded to, and you particularly last week, how much money does it really take? And
I think it hinged on money, simple as that. Whether the price went up or Andretti's enthusiasm went down, I don't know. I think it hinged on money, simple as that, really. Yeah. So, there you go. The guy who owns Sauber, effectively, the Swedish guy, he got more money than Andretti will ever make. He doesn't need to get rid of the team, and he enjoys what he does. So, I think he just maybe put the price up. There's all sorts of stories coming out, but bottom line is, it's not going to be an Andretti Sauber at this moment. Next year, year after, I don't know. Whether Andretti gets with another team or I have no idea. But at the moment, it's done and dusted.
The flip factor, of course, as I alluded to earlier in the show, was Kyle Kirkwood, who won the Indy Lights Championship this year, was destined to take the Herder car. Herder was set to go to the Alpha team.
I don't think so. Do you honestly? I don't think.
I don't know, but in theory. So, but the loser in the equation actually, in many ways, is Kirkwood, because now he doesn't have a seat at Andretti Autosport. Andretti Autosport have released him officially. He does have 1.3 mil in his back pocket to try and get himself an Indy Lights ride or an IndyCar ride. So next generation driver, but it's the way the cookie works sometimes.
Is that enough these days for that sort of thing? Because it's an ever increasing series in popularity at the moment. In fact, Alonso from Formula One, Fernando Alonso this week said that IndyCar should be gaining the same championship points to
the license.
To get the full license. Yeah. Why they should even think about IndyCar not having
exactly.
But actually my point there is that what are they saying? That IndyCar, if you get the number of points, you can go into Formula One? No, these things are equal. They shouldn't even. Anyway, that's another discussion for another day. But that's bloody silly. But yeah, we've got 5 races left in the Formula One season.
Yeah.
And we've got 3 races in 3 weekends all over the place. Mexico, then Brazil, and then Qatar, all in 3 weekends. So that's a pretty hard road to plow. I mean, in Mexico in 2016 it was Hamilton that won, 2017 it was Verstappen that won, 2018 it was Verstappen that won, 2019 the last race Hamilton that won, and it's 1,000 meters above sea level, the highest race in Formula One in terms of altitude, which means much less downforce, much less engine power. So who's going to come out of that best? No idea.
Phenomenal circuit though when they go into that stadium area, with the big terraces and stuff, and obviously Perez hometown favourite in that sense. The Mexican crowd will be into it. We saw them even cross the border effectively into the race at Kota only last week. It will bring some atmosphere back that we've been lacking, and we've seen it in this last race, and it'll be fantastic.
I haven't been to the current Mexico track, but we used to race at the old one, and that was pretty formidable there. I mean, I think when I first went there, they were actually sitting on the white line. The crowds were sitting right in of the track, so track limits would have been very definitely there. It wouldn't have been a brick wall you hit, it would have been somebody. So it's a hell of a place for a race. But yeah, we'll see. And it's in our sort of time zone as well, 8 o'clock on Monday morning, you can see the race. Yeah. So that's pretty good. It means not having to get up, goodness knows what time of night it is. So yeah, it's the next race after that is Brazil, which is going to be a sprint race. In fact, this last week, I think Formula One has announced that there's 23 races next year. I'm not glorifying the old days, but everybody says it's going to be tough on the crews, which it is. But in the old days, and here I go glorifying the old days, we used to have testing quite a lot in between races. We used to have engine changes every single night. There used to be all-nighters going on just about every single night. There were no curfews in it. These days, there's a curfew. The facilities for the teams are very much better, and I do appreciate the fact that people are going to be away for 20 races. But you will find that most people in Formula One would prefer to be away 23 races than do half and half or something like that. And from a team's point of view, I think it's the best thing to do anyway. It's going to be tough, but there you go. I mean, they've brought in, I'm going on a bit now, but they've brought in 6 sprint events planned. Well, that's one thing. There's more points for the sprint. There's going to be a sprint champion. There's going to be new rules and new wheels. At the moment, NASCAR is in trouble. I'll talk about NASCAR in a minute because they've got their last race coming up. NASCAR is in trouble with fans. It's declining in popularity enormously. And everybody's got their own opinions. The drivers got their own opinions. But basically, the fans are saying the races are too long. 500-mile races are too long. They're too boring, in that they just go round and round with the same cars now. Okay.
Yeah.
They've got a confusing points system with the staging and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
The cars will look the same. You can have a Toyota, you can have a Chevy, you like, and it's only the paint job. Okay, that's the same as V8s, sort of, in supercars, I know, but there's too many commercials in a race. It's too commercialized. Now, if you look at NASCAR losing popularity for all sorts of other reasons, like people watching other sports and whatever, I don't know, all sports are declining. Is Formula One going down the same route in the great quest for money and the great quest for improved income and all that sort of stuff? I suspect it might be, and I think they've got to be real careful here, because when NASCAR starts losing popularity in places like Charlotte and Daytona, the Daytona race this year was about half as many people watched it online on TV as the year before, which was half the year before. So, you can't keep going down this route and charging more and more for people to get in, all that sort of stuff. It's just too expensive these days. And it's not all down to COVID. There's a new look got to come into motorsport somehow. And sprint races and fart-arsing about with who's on pole position and points here and points there is the way to do it, frankly.
Well, I think at the end of the day, if we use Formula One as the example here, Formula One is a world championship. That's it. That's all you need to say. They go and have X number of races, and at the end of the championship, there's a winner. We don't need a championship inside a championship for a sprint series. It's like,
complicated.
Yeah, we know there's 23 races or whatever, and Lewis or Max or someone else is going to win, and that's a champion. That's all you need. You don't need all the other fluff.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, they could bring it up as a maybe 3 races a year like they're doing this year, but once it gets to 6 races. And it seems that it's only when you read all the websites and all the people, the fan views and all the rest of it, it seems that it's only the Formula One people like Ross Brawn who think it's a good idea. All the fans say, oh, get rid of it, So what they're doing, I don't know. We got the new cars coming in and all sorts of stuff. So I just hope they don't go down the route NASCAR thing and start to make it a bit samey. Simple as that, really. But there you go.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about samey. We had Supercars at the weekend as well.
Yeah, finally they came back.
Yeah. There's only 2 looking cars in Supercars as well. They're all the same under the skin anyway. So, I mean, a lot of people criticise Supercars. I enjoy it still. I really do. And I thought the Sydney Motorsport Park, otherwise known as Eastern Creek, for those of us who are slightly older, I thought night racing there with all those lights up, that was magnificent. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I really did. It was great.
They did a good job, and obviously we've got more races at Eastern Creek, but Sydney Motorsport Park. See, I've done it as well. The bottom line fact is that we're now on the road to Bathurst in early December, and Bathurst is going to happen. The easing of all the COVID restrictions basically with inside New South Wales, if you're double vaccinated, I think as at today, there are no crowd limits. It's free reign. So Bathurst is happening. Whether the Murphy wildcard entry gets there from New Zealand is questionable. I don't think it will now somehow, because there's been alluded to the fact. But, we're on for a race at the mountain and we're on for a championship. So it was good to see Supercars back, mixed it up a bit. That's good. I know we've talked about it as well, that you can't be at Eastern Creek all the time or Sydney Motorsport Park, but we are. It is what it is. But we will have the crown jewel event, and that is the Bathurst 1000.
Yeah, and that really is a good thing. And I don't mind it being at SMP for 4 weekends in a row, but I don't know, because I've only seen one weekend, and it might get a bit samey by the time we get to the last weekend. But as I say, I thought the night racing was superb. It was good that Shelby Power at least Pasquale and Davison were on a more competitive platform. In fact, very competitive, amazingly competitive. Because if Di Pasquale had not been disqualified for a team mistake with fitting the wrong wheel on, the wrong car and all that sort of stuff, it happened. Shane won the weekend. I think Shane was dudded a bit by his teammate as well in the third race. I think Shane played the game and stayed behind him for a long time, even though I think he asked to get past because he was faster. So he stayed behind Whincup, which compromised Shane's race in that he had to come in early, put on tyres that then compromised the second half of his race. I think Shane could have won that, but Whincup is the boss next year, I suppose, and he's got a lot of clout at the moment. And Shane was getting points anyway. He still leads the championship handsomely by more than one weekend. Yeah. But I think his holding station and not attacking Whincup probably did not help his race at all. So, but anyway, I do enjoy watching it.
Yeah, I think you'd go into Bathurst favouring Van Gisbergen over Whincup's what we call checkered history at Bathurst as well. So, and
if he does what he's told, he might do better.
it's a bit like an Indy 500 type scenario. You remember maybe someone who won the Indy 500 as opposed to who won the championship, and the same scenarios almost apply with Bathurst versus the championship. So, I'm looking forward to it. And as I said earlier in the show, with John McCallum from Western Springs, hopefully we'll get some speedway racing away here very soon. There's some plans. I can reveal them. They're not mega public, but they're about to be. That Western Springs Speedway is looking at a behind closed doors type scenario if required to give the competitors one meeting. There's a lot of spade work that has to be done to achieve that. But again, it shows you the desire, whether it be Roger Penske and IndyCar, the Supercars group and what they've done, or local speedway promoters here in New Zealand or circuit promoters here in New Zealand. Everyone is trying to find solutions. And I think at the end of the day, as fans of the sport or people associated with the sport. We appreciate the effort that these promoters are putting in right now, because, you know, the bottom line fact, they're putting it on the line big time. And certainly with a venue like Western Springs, you do, because of the council plan that you have in Auckland. It's basically use your dates or lose your dates. So it's a risky business for everybody right now.
Yeah, I agree. And any promoter who has got things going on, and there's plenty of people that would like to have things going on in motorsport, certainly. I mean, you've only got to look at Jeff Short and Speedworks and Toyota Racing Series and all that sort of stuff, and Western Springs. It's just a battle. And this is nothing to do with the concert promoters and everybody else and all the associated industries, the whole hospitality. I mean, it's a dog's bloody breakfast, the whole thing. It really is.
And, you know,
stopped, and I'm not coming out for vaccine, against vaccine. I'm double vaccinated, and I'm not saying anything that anybody should be doing. I don't care. Just open the bloody place up. In my opinion, if you're not vaccinated yet, it's your own problem, not mine. I think the double vaccinated people in Auckland, all we're doing now is protecting the unvaccinated. That's the way they want to go. It's up to them. Anyway.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that made comment to a social media post that I had yesterday with regard to the potential F1 job in Saudi. I need to clarify that officially. It was not a criticism of the fact of where we stand or how bad COVID is. I've seen it when I was in Japan. It is very nasty disease. There is absolutely no question of that. I'm not denying that. All I was really trying to get at was the fact that the system that we have here in New Zealand in relation to MIQ for people who are trying to do business, or people like yourself a few months ago who needed to travel for various reasons, are restricted by it. It's cold hard reality. I know we can't do anything about it. I make no qualm of it, but I was ultimately disappointed yesterday because I spent 3 hours in an MIQ virtual lobby to get no result. But at the end of the day, yes, it would have been a dream job. We know that, you know that, and I thank you for that. But it is what it is, and we move on, and we've got lots of great, exciting things to do, and we get a lot of satisfaction from doing what we're doing right now every week as well. Yeah, you've got to deal the hand. It was a shame, as you say. I couldn't go to my own mother's funeral. I couldn't go and see her before she died. But anyway, that's a different thing completely. I don't want to get onto that really. What else have we got? We've got, I suppose, now this is amazing to say this, absolutely amazing. NASCAR is coming to an end this season, this coming weekend. Probably so they can start the next weekend with a whole new season. But anyway, so we get to Phoenix, a little Phoenix racetrack, which is a wonderful little place. I've been there. I have a wonderful story at that place. And we've ended up with just 4 cars in the final. There were 3 Penske's in the last attempt to get into the final, but ain't no Penske's in this one. We've got Carl Larson, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., and Denny Hamlin. So we've got 2 Hendrick Chevys and 2 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas in the thing, calling them the names of the cars that are printed on the front. But as I say, they're all the same. So it's going to be interesting. Carl Larson, I think, is it's going to be between Carl Larson and Chase Elliott. But anyway, Hamlin won't make himself any more favourite with the crowd at his last race. Getting involved in more things. But I've never heard a crowd boo so much for one driver apart from Kyle Busch now and again. But Denny Hamlin certainly lit them up. But anyway, that'll come to an end this weekend. Be interesting to see how they do that. We touched on it before with Western Springs, but we were lucky enough to see Kyle Larson down here a few years ago, and the guy was very talented. He had a bit of a dip through various things, in the last 12 to 18 months, but he's risen back, and he's proven that he's very worthy of being in NASCAR as a driver, and good on him. And he would be my number 1 pick for his first title for sure. It's good to see Larson and Chase Elliott, young drivers. Next generation. Same as in every formula, the younger ones are coming up through it again. Talking about younger ones, Indy Lights and Pro 2000. Yeah, well, as we said earlier on, Hunter McElrea, obviously, in the Andretti Autosport Indy Lights entry. There's a little bit of work to go there, but, fantastic effort by him. And then, of course, Billy Frazer in the Indy Pro, moving up from the USF car. So, again, Kiwis they're doing it, aren't they? They're really doing it. Yeah, and Ganassi as well. Kiwis in there. Doing it good. Blair, as we well know, we've got a lot of time for Blair and everything he's done. Very talented guy. His brother's very talented. And as I mentioned, 2 crew chiefs now that come from New Zealand within IndyCar with both him and Paul Ziggy Harkis. So, for a little country way down in the middle of nowhere, locked up in MIQ, we don't do too bad, really.
Yeah. Yeah, Blair and his brother are good operators. We know that. We both know that. Yeah.
So there's not a lot really this week, Bob, but next week we'll be able to digest the Formula One Grand Prix from Mexico, and this will, in many ways, be a bit of a tipping point, because if Max does get further in front from Lewis, as it goes on a little bit. I'm not saying it's going on full Monty, but it's definitely going to shape it a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, because and it is going to be a war of attrition over the next 3 races, certainly. I hope the war of attrition does not include those 2 bumping into each other over the weekend, or other people bumping into each other that will affect it. I think Ferrari are quite bullish about their chances this weekend. They say that their engine upgrades will not be as affected in Mexico as they think the Mercedes engine upgrades will be. In other words, they think they're better off than McLaren in that little battle. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be interesting to see if Checo Perez manages to do what he should be doing, which is what he did in the last race. He did it very well indeed. In his home crowd, sometimes a home crowd either boosts you or it flattens you, you know. So we're just going to have to see. And as you say, that stadium is it's actually really, really good for the crowd, but it's a dreadful place. I mean, for a race part, it's a dreadful. Like, you've got to back down to nothing and slide all in the stadium just to get out again. But it is interesting, and it's good to see what happens there. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, I look forward to pulling it apart with you this time next week when we return for another edition of Racing World. Once again, as always, I thank you for your time today. I think we'll have a great show next week. There'll be plenty of news, and I'm sure we've got plenty more to come on the IndyCar front as well. So, Bob, thanks again for joining us. And I'll tell you what, we're going to do this together one day real soon.
I'll be probably more old and more grey by then. Yeah. See you later anyway. Thanks, BT.
Yeah, take care. And thanks again to everyone for watching the show again today. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Racing World. Check us out on Facebook as well under Race Control Magazine for daily updates, and just stay safe out there.